On June 8, 2002, a family of 3 set out from Boise on a camping trip to Craters of the Moon National Monument. 13 years later, a park ranger conducting a trail survey found a disposable camera wedged inside a lava tube, 200 yards off the main path. 22 photos had been taken. The last frame showed the interior of their tent, timestamp visible on a digital watch in the corner, 11:43 p.m. June 9. But the family had checked out of the campground at 9:15 a.m. that same morning according to the logbook. The family was Thomas and Rachel Voss, both 36, and their daughter Emma, who had just turned 9. Thomas worked as a civil engineer for the Idaho Department of Transportation. Rachel was a middle school teacher. Emma was finishing 3rd grade. They'd planned the trip for weeks, a long weekend at Craters of the Moon, hiking the trails, exploring the lava fields, teaching Emma about geology. They left Boise early Saturday morning, June 8, in a silver Honda CR-V. They stopped for gas in Mountain Home at 8:47 a.m., receipt found later in their vehicle. They arrived at Craters of the Moon around 11:30 a.m. and checked in at the campground office. The ranger on duty, a seasonal employee named Mark Hodge, remembered them. He said they seemed excited, well prepared. Emma had a new purple backpack. Rachel carried a disposable camera. They set up camp at Site 14, a spot near the Loop Road, with a view of the Inferno Cone. Mark saw them later that afternoon, walking toward the Tree Molds Trail. That was the last confirmed sighting. On Sunday morning, June 9th, another camper noticed the Voss family's tent was still up, but no one seemed to be around. The campfire ring was cold. No activity. The camper didn't think much of it, assumed they'd gone for an early hike. By noon, the tent was still there. The CR-V was in the parking area, doors locked. The camper mentioned it to a ranger, who walked over to Site 14. He knocked on the tent. No answer. He looked inside. Sleeping bags laid out, gear neatly arranged, but no people. The ranger checked the logbook. The Voss family had signed in for 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday. They were supposed to check out Monday morning. At 2 p.m., the ranger tried the car. It was locked, windows up. He could see a cooler in the back, a road atlas on the passenger seat, Emma's purple backpack on the floor. Everything looked normal. He radioed the park headquarters. By 4 p.m., a search was underway. Rangers and volunteers spread out across the monument. Craters of the Moon covers 750 square miles of volcanic landscape, lava fields, cinder cones, lava tubes, sagebrush flats. The terrain is rough, disorienting, and in June, brutally hot. Daytime temperatures reached 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Searchers checked the popular trails first. Tree Molds, Devil's Orchard, Inferno Cone. No sign of the family. They expanded to the backcountry areas, the wilderness sections, where few visitors ventured. Nothing. On Monday, June 10th, search dogs were brought in. They picked up a scent near the campsite, but lost it within a quarter mile. Helicopters flew grid patterns over the lava fields. Thermal imaging detected wildlife but no humans. By Tuesday, over 100 people were involved. Rangers, county search and rescue, volunteers, National Guard. They found no footprints, no discarded items, no disturbance in the fragile cryptobiotic soil that covers much of the area. On Wednesday, June 12th, searchers returned to Site 14 and conducted a detailed inventory of the family's belongings. The tent contained 3 sleeping bags, a propane stove, a lantern, clothing, toiletries. The cooler in the CR-V held food, sandwiches, fruit, juice boxes, still cold from the ice. Rachel's purse was in the tent, wallet and ID inside. Thomas's wallet was in the car. Emma's purple backpack contained a sketchbook, colored pencils, and a small stuffed rabbit. Nothing was missing. No signs of struggle. No evidence of foul play. The search continued for 9 days. On June 17th, it was scaled back to a recovery operation. By the end of June, it was suspended. The Voss family had vanished. Investigators from the Butte County Sheriff's Office took over. They interviewed campground staff, other visitors, anyone who'd been at Craters of the Moon that weekend. No one reported seeing anything unusual. No one remembered encountering the Voss family on the trails after Saturday afternoon. Detectives checked financial records. No credit card activity after the gas station in Mountain Home. No ATM withdrawals. No phone calls. Cell service at Craters of the Moon was non-existent in 2002. They searched the family's home in Boise. Everything was ordinary. Bills paid, no debts, no legal trouble. Friends and coworkers described Thomas and Rachel as stable, responsible, devoted parents. No one could imagine why they'd disappear. Theories circulated. Some speculated the family had gotten lost in the backcountry and succumbed to heat or dehydration. But experienced hikers knew Craters of the Moon. The Vosses had maps, water, and Emma was old enough to follow instructions. Besides, searchers had covered every accessible area within miles of the campground. Others wondered if they'd left voluntarily, some kind of planned disappearance. But why leave everything behind? Why abandon the car, the tent, Rachel's purse, Emma's stuffed rabbit? A few suggested foul play, abduction, murder. But there was no evidence, no witnesses, no suspects, no motive. The case went cold. 13 years passed. In May 2015, the National Park Service assigned a new ranger, Stephanie Ortiz, to conduct a comprehensive trail survey at Craters of the Moon. The monument had expanded its wilderness boundaries, and the Park Service wanted updated maps and hazard assessments for backcountry routes. On May 19th, Stephanie was surveying a section of the North Crater Flow, an area of jagged lava formations and collapsed lava tubes about 2 miles from the main campground. She was marking GPS waypoints when she noticed a narrow opening in the rock, a lava tube entrance partially obscured by sagebrush. Lava tubes are common at Craters of the Moon. Formed when molten lava flows beneath a hardened crust, they create underground tunnels that can stretch for miles. Some are tourist attractions, lit, paved, safe. Others are wild, unmapped, dangerous. This one was unmarked. Stephanie checked her map. No official record of a tube at this location. She approached carefully. The entrance was roughly 3 feet wide, angled downward. She shined her flashlight inside. The tunnel descended about 15 feet before leveling out. The walls were rough basalt, the floor covered in dust and small rocks. Stephanie climbed down. Park policy required her to document any unmapped features. She took photos, noted the coordinates, measured the dimensions. About 30 feet into the tube, her flashlight beam caught something that didn't belong. A splash of color against the black rock. She moved closer. It was a disposable camera. Bright yellow plastic casing, half buried in dust. The kind sold at gas stations and tourist shops in the early 2000s. Stephanie picked it up carefully. The camera was intact, but weathered, casing faded, corners scuffed. She turned it over. On the back, written in faded marker, Voss family, June 2002. Stephanie's breath caught. She knew the name. Every ranger who'd worked at Craters of the Moon in the past decade knew about the Voss family, the unsolved disappearance, the massive search, the questions that never got answered. She radioed headquarters immediately. Within 2 hours, park law enforcement and county detectives were at the site. The camera was photographed in place, then carefully extracted and sealed in an evidence bag. The lava tube was secured and searched. No other items found, no human remains, no signs of recent activity. The camera was sent to a forensic lab in Boise. Film from 2002 is delicate. Heat, moisture, time all degrade the emulsion. But disposable cameras are surprisingly durable, and this one had been protected inside the lava tube, shielded from direct sunlight and extreme temperature swings. Lab technicians developed the film. 22 exposures, all came through. The first 12 photos were exactly what you'd expect from a family camping trip. Emma standing beside the monument's welcome sign. Thomas and Rachel at the campsite, setting up the tent. Emma pointing at a lava formation. The family together. Self-timer shot. Smiling in front of the CRV. Photos 13 through 18 showed the tree mold's trail. Twisted impressions in the lava, where ancient trees once stood, now hollow pockets in the rock. Emma peering into one of the molds. Rachel taking notes. Thomas checking a trail map. Photo 19 showed the interior of their tent. Sleeping bags arranged neatly, gear stacked along the side. Natural light coming through the fabric. Daytime shot. Photo 20 was taken outside at dusk. The campfire ring. Flames just starting. Emma roasting a marshmallow on a stick. Photo 21 was darker. Nighttime. The tent again, this time lit by a lantern. Emma in her sleeping bag, holding the stuffed rabbit, waving at the camera. Photo 22 was the last frame. The tent interior again. Full dark outside. Lantern still on. But the angle was wrong. Camera pointing downward, slightly tilted, like it had been set on the ground or dropped. The frame captured part of a sleeping bag, a corner of Emma's purple backpack, and clearly visible in the lower right corner, a digital watch lying face up on the tent floor. The watch display was illuminated. The timestamp was sharp, legible, 11:43 p.m. Beneath the time, the date, June 09, June 9th, Sunday night. The same day the family had supposedly checked out of the campground at 9:15 a.m. Investigators pulled the campground logbook from 2002. The entry was there, Site 14, Voss family, checked out 9:15 a.m., June 9th. The ranger who'd been on duty that morning, a man named Derek Poole, had signed off on it. Detectives contacted Derek in June 2015. He was retired, living in Twin Falls. He said he didn't remember the Voss family specifically. It had been 13 years, and hundreds of families checked in and out every weekend. But he confirmed that in 2002, checkout procedure was simple. Families would stop by the office, turn in their site tag, and the ranger would note the time in the log. If a family didn't stop by, the ranger would drive around mid-morning, check the sites, and log anyone who'd already left. Derek said he might have driven by Site 14 that morning, seen the tent was gone, and logged them as checked out. Or maybe they did stop by, and he just didn't remember. Either way, the log said 9:15 a.m. But the photo showed 11:43 p.m., 14 hours later. Investigators re-interviewed other campers who'd been at Craters of the Moon that weekend in 2002. Most didn't remember details, but one couple, Gary and Linda Moss, said they'd been at Site 12, 2 spots away from the Voss family. They remembered Saturday clearly. The Voss setting up camp, Emma playing near the fire ring. But Sunday morning, Gary said he'd noticed their tent was still up when he left for a hike around 8 a.m. When he returned around 10:30 a.m., the tent was gone. Gone. Not still there. Gone. Linda confirmed it. She said she'd walked past Site 14 around 10 a.m. to use the restroom, and the site was empty. Tent packed up, car still there but no people. So the tent had been taken down sometime between 8 o'clock and 10:30 a.m. on Sunday, June 9th. The ranger logged them as checked out at 9:15 a.m. But the photo showed the tent still set up at 11:43 p.m. that same night. That's impossible. Unless the photo wasn't taken on June 9th. Unless the date on the watch was wrong. Unless someone had reset it. Detectives examined the watch in photo 22. It was a Casio digital model. common in the early 2000s. Those watches had manual date and time settings. You could change them easily. But why would the Voss family reset the watch to show a false date? Lab technicians analyzed the photo more carefully. They looked at the lighting, consistent with a battery-powered lantern. They looked at the tent fabric, same color and pattern as the tent found at Site 14. They looked at the sleeping bag visible in the frame, matched the description of Emma's bag. Then they noticed something else. In the upper left corner of photo 22, barely visible, was a shadow, a silhouette, someone standing just outside the tent, backlit by the lantern, their outline faint against the fabric. The shadow didn't match Thomas or Rachel. It was too tall, too broad, and the posture was wrong, stiff, angular, not relaxed. Someone else had been there. Detectives reopened the case with new urgency. They went back to the lava tube where the camera was found. The location was significant. 200 yards off the main trail, in an area rarely visited. How did the camera get there? Did the Voss family hide it? Did someone else leave it? They searched the surrounding area again. This time, they brought cadaver dogs. On June 3, 2015, the dogs alerted inside the lava tube, about 50 feet past where the camera had been found. The tunnel narrowed there, descending steeply. Investigators climbed down carefully. At the bottom, in a small chamber, they found a blue nylon jacket. It was child-sized. The tag inside read Emma Voss in faded marker. The jacket was sent to the lab. No blood, no tears, no signs of trauma, just dusty, weathered from years in the cave. But it confirmed Emma had been in that lava tube at some point. Detectives expanded the search radius. Over the next 2 weeks, they combed every lava tube, crevice, and formation within a mile of the North Crater flow. They found nothing else. But they did find something unexpected. Tire tracks. Old, faint, but visible, in a patch of soft soil near the lava tube entrance. The tracks had been there for years, partially eroded by wind and rain. A forensic team cast the impressions. The tread pattern matched a light truck or SUV, not the Voss family's Honda CR-V. Someone else had driven to that location years ago and parked close to the lava tube. Investigators pulled records of vehicles registered to visitors at Craters of the Moon in June 2002. Most records were incomplete. The monument didn't require registration unless you were camping overnight. And even then, not every ranger logged vehicle details. But they found a few entries. None matched the tire tread pattern. Detectives shifted focus. They looked at people who worked at the monument in 2002. Rangers, maintenance staff, volunteers. They cross-referenced names with criminal databases. Most were clean, but one name stood out. Derek Poole, the ranger who'd logged the Voss family as checked out at 9:15 a.m., had been investigated in 2004 for misconduct, allegations of inappropriate behavior toward a female visitor. The investigation was inconclusive, and Derek resigned before it was completed. He'd moved to Twin Falls and worked construction jobs until he retired. Detectives interviewed Derek again, this time more formally. They asked about the Voss family, the checkout log, whether he remembered anything unusual that weekend. Derek's story stayed consistent. He didn't remember the family. He didn't remember checking them out. He said he probably drove by the site, saw it was empty, and logged it. When detectives showed him photo 22, the tent interior with the timestamp, Derek went quiet. Then he said, "That doesn't make sense. If the tent was up at 11:43 p.m., I couldn't have logged them out that morning." Detectives pressed. Did Derek drive by Site 14 on Sunday morning? Did he see the tent? Did he see the family? Derek said he didn't remember. It was 13 years ago. He did dozens of checkout rounds every summer. He couldn't recall one specific family. But something in his tone had shifted. He was defensive. evasive. Detectives noted it. They asked about the lava tube. Had Derek ever explored the North Crater flow? Had he been to that area? Derek said he'd hiked most of the monument during his time as a ranger, but he couldn't remember specific tubes. There were hundreds. Detectives asked if they could search Derek's property in Twin Falls. Derek refused and called a lawyer. The interview ended. Without probable cause, detectives couldn't obtain a warrant. They had a camera, a jacket, tire tracks, and a timestamp that didn't align with the logbook, but they didn't have evidence linking Derek or anyone directly to the Voss family's disappearance. The investigation stalled again. In August 2015, a hiker exploring an unmapped section of the Craters of the Moon Wilderness found a campsite, not an official site, but a makeshift one, hidden in a depression between two lava ridges. The campsite was old, abandoned for years. There were remnants of a fire ring, a few rusted tent stakes, and a torn section of blue tarp. The hiker reported it to park rangers. When investigators examined the site, they found something buried under the tarp, a small spiral notebook, pages yellowed and brittle. The notebook belonged to Rachel Voss. Her name was on the inside cover. The entries were dated, journal-style notes from the camping trip. The last entry was June 9, 2002, written in the afternoon. Rachel's handwriting was rushed, shaky. She wrote about hearing something during the night, footsteps near the tent, a rustling sound. Thomas had gone outside to check. He saw someone near the campfire ring, a man standing still watching. Thomas called out, asked if he needed help. The man didn't respond. He just turned and walked into the dark. Rachel wrote that they'd felt uneasy after that. Thomas wanted to pack up and leave, but it was the middle of the night. They decided to wait until morning. The entry ended mid-sentence. Emma is scared. We're going to. The rest of the page was blank. Investigators analyzed the notebook. No fingerprints other than Rachel's. No blood. No signs of violence. Just an unfinished sentence. And then silence. The hidden campsite was 3 miles from Site 14, deep in the backcountry. How did the Voss family end up there? Did they move voluntarily? Were they forced? And who was the man Thomas saw by the fire ring? Detectives revisited every lead. They re-interviewed campground visitors, park staff, residents in nearby towns. They asked if anyone remembered seeing a man alone at Craters of the Moon that weekend, someone acting strangely, lingering near campsites watching families. One woman, a volunteer who'd worked the visitor center in 2002, said she remembered a man who came in on Saturday, June 8th. He asked about backcountry camping, wanted to know which areas were least monitored. She said he seemed knowledgeable, like he'd been to the monument before. She didn't get his name. She described him as tall, maybe 40s, wearing a faded green jacket and a baseball cap. The description was too vague to pursue, but it matched the silhouette in photo 22, tall, broad-shouldered. In September 2015, detectives received an anonymous tip. A caller said they'd seen a man matching that description in the Craters of the Moon area in the early 2000s, not just in 2002, but multiple times over several years. The caller said the man drove a tan pickup truck and often parked near remote trailheads, sometimes staying overnight in the backcountry. The tip didn't provide a name or a license plate, but it suggested someone had been frequenting the monument, watching, waiting. Detectives issued a public appeal for information. They released a sketch based on the volunteer's description and asked anyone who'd encountered a man matching that profile at Craters of the Moon between 2000 and 2005 to come forward. 3 people responded. All described similar encounters. A man alone, quiet, appearing at odd times, never engaging in conversation. One hiker said the man had followed her on a trail for over a mile before turning back. She'd reported it to a ranger at the time, but no action was taken. None of the respondents could provide a name. None had photos. The case remains open. The Voss family was officially declared deceased in 2016, but no remains have been found. The camera, the jacket, and Rachel's notebook are stored in evidence. The hidden campsite has been documented, but offers no new clues. In 2018, Derek Poole died of a heart attack. He never spoke publicly about the Voss case again. If he knew something, he took it with him. The shadow in photo 22, the silhouette outside the tent, has never been identified. Forensic analysts enhanced the image as much as possible, but the resolution is too low to extract facial features or distinguishing marks. Just a shape, a presence, someone standing in the dark. Investigators believe the Voss family encountered someone at Craters of the Moon on the night of June 8th or the early morning of June 9th. That person may have approached their campsite, may have frightened them, may have forced them to leave. The family moved to the hidden campsite, 3 miles into the backcountry. Rachel documented what happened in her notebook, but she never finished writing. Sometime on June 9th, possibly during the day, possibly later, the family disappeared. The camera was left in the lava tube, either hidden by them as evidence or placed there by someone else. Emma's jacket was left behind, discarded or forgotten. The tent was taken down and removed from site 14 before 10:30 a.m. But the photo timestamp suggests it was still standing at 11:43 p.m. The only way to reconcile the timeline is to accept that the watch was deliberately set to the wrong date, either by the Voss family, trying to leave a clue, or by someone else, trying to confuse investigators. But why take a photo at 11:43 p.m.? Why capture that specific moment? Was it a message, a record, a mistake? If the shadow in the photo is the person responsible, then photo 22 might be the only image of them that exists. A ghost on film, standing outside a tent in the dark, watching a family that would be gone by morning. The disposable camera held 27 exposures. 22 were used. 5 frames remain blank. Some investigators believe those last 5 photos were taken, but deliberately erased, fogged, removed, destroyed. The film processing lab found no evidence of tampering, but the gaps exist. What was on those frames? Who decided they couldn't be seen? Stephanie Ortiz, the ranger who found the camera, still works at Craters of the Moon. She says the lava tube is now marked and monitored. Visitors occasionally ask about it. The Voss tube, some call it. Stephanie doesn't encourage the nickname. She says it's a place of questions, not answers. The monument covers 750 square miles. Hundreds of lava tubes remain unmapped. Some are too dangerous to enter. Some have never been explored. If the Voss family is still out there, they could be anywhere or nowhere. In 2020, a geology student conducting research on volcanic formations found a child's purple backpack lodged in a crevice near the Broken Top crater, 5 miles from where Emma's jacket was discovered. The backpack matched the description from 2002. Inside, a sketchbook with drawings of animals, colored pencils worn to nubs, and a small stuffed rabbit, faded, dusty but intact. The rabbit's tag was still attached, embroidered in the fabric Emma. No other evidence was found at that location. Just the backpack, left in a place no 9-year-old would have wandered to alone. If you'd been camping at Craters of the Moon on June 8, 2002, and heard footsteps near your tent in the middle of the night, would you have gone outside to check?